Welcome. Welcome to Joe's Astrology. Talking about Pluto in the sixth house, Mercury, Virgo. We're talking about Evolutionary Astrology, EA Glossary, one of my favorite versions of astrology. See, astrology, when you really, from my perspective, it's actually once you get to know it well, it's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. And there are so many people that like to complicate astrology. And, if this is true, see, Jeffrey Wolf Green and evolutionary astrology kind of combines, if you don't already know this, it's a little bit off topic, but it kind of combines, or it does combine, uh, Eastern philosophy, yoga, if you study yoga. Basically, that's what it combines. It combines yoga and astrology. The teachings of that philosophy, religion, spirituality, etc. It takes that and it combines it with astrology. So basically, we're talking about real life because uh, that's what they do. I don't know if people really realize that. They observe life. That's what they've done for thousands of years. So Pluto in the sixth. Pluto in the sixth, or Virgo. These people have been learning to serve society or individuals. They have been learning humility, self doubt, discrimination, purification, and self improvement. They develop these qualities through intense self analysis. This is pretty much all Virgo, anything in Virgo, sixth house as well. Will probably have some of these qualities or experiences throughout life. We have the sun entering Virgo here tonight, probably in a few hours. Virgo as an archetype symbolizes how individuals within a society learn to fulfill a function within the society. This requires sacrificing their personal wishes to the needs of the society. They have had to develop the skills needed to perform the work or service. Here they are learning about what they are not, learning humility and purification of self glorification. See, the thing about Pluto in the sixth, though, or with Virgo placements, a lot of people, like it says here, they're learning humility. Learning, keyword is learning humility, learning self-doubt, learning about discrimination, purification, self-improvement. So throughout the life, this can cause a lot of problems because in their mind, yeah, remember, well, what I was, I have to remember as people who are interested in astrology have to remember most people who have Pluto in the sixth, 80, 90% of them, they don't know what astrology is. They're never going to know what astrology is. And they are learning humility. So they might even be going through their life in a position that humbles them, in a position that purifies them, that encourages self improvement. And in their mind, it's just a job. They think it's just a job. They haven't really, I mean, maybe part of them thinks that part of them wants to serve people, like they notice day to day they're good at it, they want to do it, but then when they step back and start thinking about it and they start observing what that really means in life, they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. That's like, that's being some kind of slave. I want to be the one to be served, especially when you have these Leo placements near. You have planets in Virgo, most likely you have some planets in Leo, and it can kind of cause this confusion. But we're talking specifically about Pluto in the sixth. So you can have someone as Pluto in the sixth and a sun in Leo. And really, what we're talking about here, based on what I just described, is Leo. The sun in Leo is there to maybe help them get into that position. So you think of like a nurse. Virgo, a lot of people who work in hospitals will have Virgo. So you might think of a head nurse who has Pluto in the sixth, but the idea that they're in charge, that all the eyes are on them, is that Sun in Leo. But underlying all of that, the Pluto in the sixth, they are learning to serve society or the individuals that they work with. They have had to develop the skills needed to perform the work or service. Here they are learning about what they are not. I'm sorry, here they are learning about what can't read. They have a laser like mind which exposes any part of them that is not right. This leads to introspection, which leads to purging the parts of them that are no longer aligned with the evolutionary direction. They will have inner feelings of what must change, reflecting an inner standard of that which is seen as right or perfect. That which is not right will be linked to egocentric first to fifth house orientations. That which is perceived as perfect will be linked to seventh through 12th house orientations. Many have subconscious memories of prior mistakes and things not done right. Guilt is tightly connected with those memories. There will be a desire to atone for the guilt. Serving others is one way to atone for the guilt. They will overanalyze and put themselves down. They become compulsively focused on imperfection. They are never ready or good enough for what is at hand, or they do not deserve any more than they have. They create excuses why they are not doing what they know they should do, and then create more guilt around this inaction cycle. Often the guilt has existed for lifetimes. This can create states of perpetual crisis. Some will project this blame outwardly onto others. And this kind of goes along with the 12th house Pluto as well, uh, the Pisces Virgo axis. And again, when I read this, and maybe if someone out there is listening to this, and it's like, wow, the power that knowing this as a Pluto in the sixth house, knowing and understanding this throughout your life, the power that it can give you. But as I said earlier, to remember that most people are not going to know astrology. Even people that are into astrology are never going to really even listen to a video such as this. So, this is going to be, as it says here, this idea of guilt, perfection, overanalyzation, uh, states of perpetual crisis. This is going to exist for them. Even to the sad part is, as it says here, they create excuses why they are not doing what they know they should do and create more guilt around the inaction cycle. Some will project blame outwardly onto others. This could even be read to somebody, to them, or they can listen to this video and then later on they will still, even the person, myself creating this video, if this was, I was actually giving advice to somebody, they would somehow blame me because again they don't fully understand this, they haven't taken it in as uh, a truth for that, not just for themselves, but a uh, general truth for all Pluto in the sixth house people, or for all people in all. There's good advice for all people in general to remember to learn about guilt and shame and what it can do to a person. There will be a desire to atone for the guilt. Serving others is one way to atone for the guilt. They will overanalyze and put themselves down. They become compulsively focused on imperfection. They're they're never ready or good enough for what is at hand, or they do not deserve any more than they have. Crisis is necessary for these people. The post crisis analysis can lead the person to self awareness. In a negative reaction cycle, the person will tear themselves down over and over, creating a state of inner paralysis. They need to learn to keep acting, to not paralyze. Atonement occurs through action. That's interesting there. The atonement occurs through action. They need to learn to keep acting. So it's like if you're feeling people who, because I've had this early in life, where you're feeling guilty or feeling shame, to keep moving through that, to keep moving forward. Because as you can see, I mean, you don't know me personally, but even just to do these videos, hopefully I'm coming across. Welcome in. We're talking about Pluto in the sixth. Feel free to ask any questions, say hi in the chat. I'm saying if you don't, if it's not really coming through the video, I can tell you, in all honesty, that process was going through my mind at 15, 16, 17 years old, as early as 15, 16 years old. And at this point in my life, I wouldn't say it's gone completely, but it is about as close as it can be to be gone completely. So that the reason I'm bringing that up is that idea that just to keep moving forward, to keep taking action, uh, eventually that can be a reality for any other Pluto in the sixth house or anyone who's dealing with Virgo, these Virgo issues of, as he's saying, specifically paralysis. Uh, because in my case, I guess a lot of times what will happen is um, I would quit or I would give up or I'd run away. 12th house, maybe you think like the Pisces Virgo, I'd run away because I didn't want to deal with this guilt or shame. And I didn't really know where it was coming from. Other people would look at me, might even look at me like, "What? Why? Where's this coming from?" Because they're not really seeing it that way. The Virgo or the Pluto in the sixth. The Virgo person is seeing it that way, but other people aren't really seeing it that way. So through stripping themselves bare, they experience the imperfection and flaws in life. This produces the feeling that something is missing. They can be critical of everyone and everything, in addition to being critical of self. The criticisms are based on the elusive internal standards of perfection and the places where self and life fall short of them. And that's what I was talking about. The criticisms are coming from the self. This is something that I've learned definitely as I've gotten older, to even when this is occurring, to almost step back and look at things and realize that uh, these people are not criticizing me. I'm criticizing myself. It's coming from me. And this can be something that you see when you put yourself in a lot of different scenarios around a lot of different people at different ages, etc. You start to realize this, that well, of course, understanding astrology, you start to realize that not everyone is as critical as you are. Or I would realize not everyone is as critical as I am. And I definitely know that as a fact now. And that has definitely helped transition out of out of all these things. And it really lightens things up after a while because you can move through it pretty quickly. The thought comes there, it's like, and the critical thought, and then it's like, it's BS. It's total BS. And even if it isn't, so what? Because half the people are going to be half the people are going to be aligned with that idea of perfection and imperfection, but then there's a whole bunch of people out there that don't give a fuck about perfection. They don't care about details. They're carefree, and maybe you'll start hanging out with those people, and they will help. They will help the Pluto in the sixth. Certainly, will make life better. The feelings of aloneness can become overbearing, and they can fill up their lives with endless activities. They can become workaholics. Those who criticize others draw people who criticize them into their own lives. adding to their sense of isolation and meaninglessness. They may feel persecuted. They can become workaholics. That can be the 12th house Pluto as well, of course. Or, they could be the idea of them becoming workaholics based on everything I just said too. They could become they could not want to work because they're so if you think of Pluto also just kind of going with this idea of Mercury, if we look at the keywords to Mercury, Virgo, Mercury, the sixth house, aloneness, inadequacy, persecuted, victim, health, discernment. We could think inferiority. We could think a lot like at these very low levels of Virgo. Because I think I have met. I think this is what was going on. I've met one person who was uh, doing astrology who I think was going through this, and they wouldn't even want to work. They could only work certain things, and they convinced themselves that they could only work for certain periods of time in certain areas, etc. And that might have been true from her perspective, but also what could have been going there is some mental health stuff, some physical health stuff that really didn't allow them to work let's say a regular shift job, like a regular. She was younger, like a regular, even something easy like retail, where these restaurants that are very easy to work at couldn't do it. And again, there's that making excuses. And sometimes it's not so spiritual. It's not so like spiritually advanced. It could just be something simple like that. Like, I feel like I'm being persecuted. I feel like I'm better than everyone else, and I can't work this job. So I'm not going to do it. But in reality, it's them kind of running away from them getting better, them improving, the self improvement, them improving their health. They're not even aware that they're not healthy. And this again is the sad part. I mean, this Pluto in the sixth, Pluto in the 12th is so important for me for these reasons because uh, I have a lot of empathy for these people because I mean I have a lot of empathy for people in general, even from like a selfish standpoint, because there's so many people out there that will make excuses and will run from astrology. And it's kind of funny they say, well, people that are into astrology are making excuses for themselves, like pop astrology. And the reality is, the people that aren't into astrology, like real astrology, are the ones that would be making the excuses because once they see the truth staring them in the face, they're going to make excuses because for this reason they don't want to do the hard work to heal, to improve, to change. But it's also, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here. It also makes sense, as I was saying, with the yoga, because that's what they observe. That's what we observe, that most people are taking lifetimes. That's the importance of reincarnation too, which they'll deny. Most people will deny that. That's idea that it's taking people lifetimes or a whole lifetime to learn simple lessons that are right here in a couple paragraphs. And you could say, well, I'm getting it. Well, I'm getting it, but I'm getting it after 20 years of work, 20 years of introspection, 20 years of searching, and who knows what I did or what the soul that I'm carrying, or the soul that's behind all this. Who knows what uh, I want to say it, but that light. Who knows what that light was doing in previous lifetimes to get to this point? So, a lot to think about there. Yeah, the idea of being workaholics is interesting too because you think of Pluto in the sixth, Mercury again, routines, work. Um, I would even say, like, you think of the polarity of Pisces. They don't want to. They A lot of them, a lot of Virgo people, or in general, if you depends on the whole chart, the consciousness, etc. They're thinking about, or they're centered here on Earth. They don't want to think about space. They don't want to expand their mind. They want to, and working every day, doing the same routine over and over again, constantly keeping busy, busy, busy. That occupies the mind so that it doesn't drift, so that it doesn't go off into thinking different thoughts. And there's no room for criticism, for criticizing the self, because all day long they're criticizing something right in front of them. They're analyzing something that's taking the place of that criticism. So if you have a person, if a person is listening to this and they have a lot of Virgo or Pluto in the sixth, if you are very critical of yourself, I would say you're at least on the path. You're on a path, because those workaholics, they are not on any path. They are what you might call worker bees, or that's what they could be here for, just to be a uh, a worker bee. And I have these books here. I just picked up this book where I started reading last week, called Initiation. There's something really new here that I'm not probably not that familiar with. But this idea of initiation, I would say, if you are having these feelings that are described here, that you are going through, if you aren't going quickly, and this is like a struggle for you, you are going through a period of initiation. And as I said, most people aren't going to get it that way. They're not going to understand it that way. But if you're watching this video, you can understand it that way. And maybe not change your life, but you can better cope with what's happening. You can objectify it, Aquarius, 11th house. You can objectify it. You can laugh at it, Sagittarius. I mean, that's a big one, laughing at it. Step back, observe, objectify it, realize it's not you. It's not there to define you. It's something you're going through. You can say it's something that the soul is going through, and the personality shows it, and you can laugh at it at the end of the day. Those who criticize others draw people who criticize them into their own lives, adding to their sense of isolation and meaninglessness. They may feel persecuted. The key to resolving these issues is to become aware of why they are occurring in the first place. They subconsciously create situations where they must be of service to others. They are also susceptible to illness, to forced confrontations with that which must be acknowledged. Now, unfortunately, that's beyond the scope of this video. Right now, that's very heavy stuff there. I'm not going to get into that. Maybe you can make some sense out of that. Replay this video. But he gets into the polarity point, the 12th house or Pisces. Pisces. The intention is simplification, dissolving old barriers that prevent the understanding of the individual self concept. It shows the person that they are part of a larger force, a realization that begins to fill the existential hole by the popping of the Leo balloon of the ego. See, there's kind of talking about what I'm talking about. Also realizing that, um, and this goes again, going to space. When you're not working all the time, you sit back and reflect, get past the criticism, realize that they said this, pop the Leo balloon. Realize when you're doing that, you're thinking about yourself so much, and thinking and realizing how selfish it actually is to sit there and criticize yourself all the time. And that goes along with the idea of going from that part of Virgo to serving others. I'm going to take that energy and serve other people, to focus on other people. not to criticize them, but to get involved with them, to help them. And this can bring up a whole another thing where a lot of people, I think, at a very surface level, they might think that they're helping people. They might start criticizing other people. You think of Virgo as well with this idea of criticizing yourself. You get into like fashion and makeup, and you might start think, "Oh, I want to help people with their makeup," right? And you start criticizing. What you're actually doing is making it worse for them. Now, in some cases, I'm not saying that's in all cases, but the idea of beauty and helping people beautify themselves can be an act of service for sure. I just think that's a little bit ironic as opposed to helping them truly understand the internal beauty that they have, by understanding the astrology, the beauty of the signs, the beauty of the energy that backs all of the astrological signs, as opposed to the externals. See, in real life, in video and pictures, it's really hard for a lot of people to get past the surface level. But in real life, people have less of a hard time with it. Take this video for example. A lot of people will have a hard time, maybe have a hard time looking at this video, but in person, they may have less of a hard time because they can feel the energy. And here they're just right away looking at what it looks like. And Virgo again, like looking at it, criticizing the video, the person, the looks, etc. Where you can think of like even just the idea of height or the idea of a man and a woman or vice versa when you get into the presence of a person who's bigger than you, smaller than you, even just man and woman, you can't help but feel the femininity or the masculinity. Where in a video, you don't feel that. Many will deny a cosmic connection, dismissing it as impractical or irrational. There's a tendency to embrace spirituality during a crisis and abandon it when the crisis ends until the next crisis. This is where you have all the atheists. If you're an atheist and you're a Pluto in the sixth, the stuff he's talking about probably will never occur, not in this lifetime. Even if you're an agnostic, uh, you think a lot of people who are scientists or have to work in that field, they're workaholics. They're not gonna do it, and that allows them to continue. And they might not even be suffering. They might love it. But again, then the crisis comes up, and then they have to deal with it until the next crisis. Pisces facilitates the development of the holistic, intuitive approach to life to counter Mercury's left brain logical orientation. Becoming aware of the connection to divinity fosters self forgiveness and appreciation of the imperfection in others. The holistic view helps develop inner peace that puts the worrying mind at rest. They come to see the work function that is best aligned with their true purpose rather than working any old job. These people are natural karma yogis, serving God through the work and service that they perform. Know what yoga is one of the forms of yoga. You can see here I have a whole book on Jnana yoga. That's another form. And these people would do well to learn about karma yoga. Karma yoga, and I would actually also include bhakti yoga. Unfortunately, many of them will not. They will be a part of Islam, Christianity, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. The main problem with that is that they will see they will the problem with the world the main problem one of the main problems with the world religions is they will block out a lot of people. They will neglect and put their hand up and not accept a lot of people, truly accept them. On the surface, they might, but The idea of Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, there isn't this universal, all humans. It's not, you don't have to believe anything. It's not like you're part of the Christianity team or the Buddhist team, etc. A Buddhist, an Islamic, a Christian, a Jew, Jewish person can all practice Karma Yoga universally. In fact, they are doing it without even knowing it. Those who follow the intent will surrender to spirit and transform. They will be quite humble and serve anyone who truly needs their help. See, until you go through this whole process, you're not gonna. It's really a philosophical process too, in a sense. And you don't need to go through the ninth house Sagittarius, uh, which I consider myself and probably coming across as probably too philosophical. These people are doing it. They're doing it in their life through this process. They don't need to be philosophical about it, but they could get there through philosophy as well. Essentially, all these Plutos in the houses are showing how we're all getting to the same place through a different process. So I'm gonna leave it there for now. This chapter is pretty decent size. You can see the print. There's like 6 or 7 pages of that kind of print, a little bit longer than some of the other ones. And this one is worth really, for a lot of us, is worth focusing on uh, coming out of the religious paradigms I would say at least 50% of us have grown up with. Even if you've really broken free from it completely, it still really pays to understand this Virgo guilt stuff. I have a couple other videos on Virgo and guilt. I've had a recent friend who it's very frustrating with her, and many friends actually. It's very frustrating because you can see that they're still dealing with it, and it is a um, when I say empathize with people, and I'm being a little bit selfish about it because as well, it's not just empathy because uh, it's really forcing me to continuously meet new people, um, and that is very uh, tiring for sure. Maybe even encourage me and force me to or bring me to a point where I'm making these videos, which is a positive thing. However, it doesn't help the fact that I'm talking to a screen. So, one more thing before I wrap this up, if you're actually still watching this, I wanted to interesting astrology story about this. This is a statue of Aphrodite, and I got that in 2022. And Saturn was transiting my Venus when I bought that, and I didn't do it on purpose. I've met people that don't really understand astrology, and they always ask, "Oh, does astrology guide your life? Are you doing your life based on astrology?" And the answer to that is no. I'm definitely not uh, organizing my life by astrology. I may be using it to a certain degree, but I don't think they really understand how hard it is to do that. But without thinking about it, I bought this. I was going to buy a few more, and actually, because I like these little statues, and I only bought one. It's the only one I bought. It was a Saturn was transiting my Venus, and I met someone. I met one of the few people during that time uh, who, throughout my life, that I would consider a special person or someone that I really like. I met them while Saturn was transiting my Venus, and during the time it must have been like the day or the day after I received that in the mail. So I don't really know what that means. Is life completely fated? I don't think so. As I said before, in a lot of these videos, it's very complex stuff. It would take hours and years and weeks and months to really break it all down to get to a point to understand how it all works. But continue watching my videos. Like the video, share the videos, because I'm going to get into this. If I get more subscribers who are interested in this, I will definitely go very deep. I probably went deeper than I should have because there's no audience for this at this time. But I do enjoy I am starting to enjoy talking to a screen, so I'm getting used to it. So maybe I'll continue with that for the few people that do watch these videos. And yeah, so I'll wrap it up there. Hope you have a great night and happy Virgo season.